against Bitcoin.
It's going up forever.
You're against Bitcoin, you're against freedom.
Yo, welcome to Simply Bitcoin Live. We're your number one source for the peaceful Bitcoin revolution, current breaking news, culture, matic warfare. We will be your guide through the separation of money and state. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Simply Bitcoin, the most watched daily Bitcoin only live show on YouTube, Rumble, and X. Shout out to our Rumble community. We are now verified on Rumble, and we are officially using the channel name Simply Space Bitcoin. So shout out to the Rumble crew for making that happen, and we appreciate you guys. We appreciate all the communities, the YouTube community, the Rumble community, and the Twitter community. If you guys are enjoying the show so far, make sure to smash that like button. We're going to take a more lighthearted approach because I feel like yesterday's episode, we had to cover a very serious topic, and it was, from a historical sense, I think it was one of the most important episodes we've done in Simply Bitcoin's history. You have, I would say, an escalation from the state here in the United States going after Bitcoiners. It started with Tornado Cash. They set the precedent with Tornado Cash. Coin Center lost its case. The lawsuits got dropped, and then they got emboldened. They said, okay, now let's go after a bigger fish, and they went after Samurai. Unfortunately, the developers of Samurai are currently, sitting in a box, sitting in prison, right? So this is what the separation of money and state is all about. Did you really think that they were just going to go gently into that good night? Did you really think that over the keys, right? Yeah. Like, the next battle to come is the fight for self-custody. Self-custody is the revolution. We read you this amazing post from Lynn yesterday talking about how basically the tax system is built on this financial surveillance system that currently exists. But that system relies on intermediaries, right? So intermediaries holding your money. That's why they come up with terms like hosted wallet, unhosted wallet, because an unhosted wallet makes it as if like you needed an intermediary for it to function. But that's not the case. That's not how Bitcoin works. You don't need an intermediary, right? So that whole system that's predicated on being able to surveil, to effectively enforce taxation, effectively enforce capital controls, it kind of goes away, right? When you have peer-to-peer transactions, right? Here is Niraj. He is part of the communications for Coin Center, and I love his pinned tweet, which I think perfectly summarizes what I'm talking about. I'm sorry that your warrantless surveillance regimes was built on the assumption that people would always need intermediaries to transact. So spot on. And that's exactly what's happening right now. So today what we're going to focus on is the next step, right? Samurai, we're going to keep updating you guys if there's updates, but we're going to focus on their next attack, which I really think it's inevitably coming, is the attack on self-custody. So we're going to talk about that today. The FBI released a public service announcement, and the wording is pretty interesting. How they're framing it, how they're wording it. We're going to talk about that. Also, love Jack Mallers. Love his optimism and the way that he kind of sees this. He's predicting $250 to $1 million Bitcoin this cycle, and it all has to come from. It all comes from just the absolute crazy just the fiscal. The fiscal strategies of our politics, if you can call it a strategy, the fiscal decisions of our politicians, right? The endless money printing, the U.S. bond market, which is always, you could say it's healthy. People love U.S. bonds. Like, for the first time in history, people are just looking at U.S. bonds and saying, I don't know about that, right? So we're kind of heading into uncharted territory. Now, of course, for Bitcoiners, we're in the lifeboat, but for governments, they can't have that lifeboat. That lifeboat can't exist. Like, it creates a very big problem if they can't take you down with the sinking ship for them. It's a big issue. So this is why I believe, self-custody is inevitably on the chopping block. That's inevitably where they're going to go after. It's not just me saying this. You have very, very extremely intelligent Bitcoiners like Dylan LeClaire also making the case for this as well. So we're going to get into all the details of this. And then also, this is not just happening in the United States. this is happening in the European Union. The European Union is passing these laws, these surveillance rules that would make it illegal for certain amount of cash transactions. Also, the Phoenix wallet decided to exit the United States as well, following the footsteps of Wallet of Satoshi. You know, I thought this was land of the free, home of the brave. Wallet of Satoshi and Phoenix are unavailable in 3 countries: North Korea, China, and the United States. Like, such a hotbed for innovation. You know, this is nuts. What is happening? So bunker down, take self-custody. This isn't the separation of money and state. You know, this isn't called the peaceful revolution for no reason. But I think we're going to win at the end. And the reason I believe we're going to win at the end is because Bitcoin has superior incentive, is the best money the world has ever seen. All right, no more delay. I do want my legendary co-host. Here's Phil C. You can't comply your way out of tyranny. Yes, but you can't comply yourself out of tyranny, but you can self-custody your way out of tyranny. That's for sure. Anyways, Opti, how you doing? It's Friday. We survived another week. This was a crazy week, bro. This was nuts. Like,
dude, a crazy week and only getting crazier.
Like, yesterday got pretty dark, bro. Like, it got pretty dark. You know, Bitcoin Twitter was up in arms. I think we definitely got hit as a community. Definitely a step in the right direction in terms of privacy, the villainization and criminalization of privacy. And we have to keep in mind, right, the way that they're phrasing things and they're wording things. A very small percentage of Samurai users and Tornado Cash users were actually using, you know, the mixers for illicit finance, but you can't, you know, the government isn't going to let a crisis go to waste. And the way that they kind of state crafted this, the way that they used lawfare was fascinating. They set the precedent with Tornado Cash. Everyone that sued the Tornado Cash, and no one really cared a lot because no one really knew what Tornado Cash was. But they said Tornado Cash is laundering money for North Korea and China. No, North Korea and Russia. Russia, North Korea bad, and they set the precedent. When they won those cases less than a year later, they felt emboldened, and they don't even use boogeymans anymore. Now they're just saying, oh, people are laundering money illicitly. That's bad, right? But it's interesting how they did that, right? They took little incremental steps, and the reason I'm highlighting that and bringing that up is because they're doing the same thing with self-custody. The FBI public service announcement, the terms hosted wallet, unhosted wallet. Also, we had Bitcoin Mom. I believe she's Jack Mahler's mother, and she's talking about an experience that she had with the IRS in regards to self-custody. So it's like, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to really kind of, play out in your mind where this is going, right? It's so incredibly obvious. But this is a line that cannot be crossed. This is a line where this is where we win. This is where we win. This is where we lose. Self-custody is the revolution. Millions upon millions of individuals taking custody of unconfiscatable wealth. That's how things actually change, right? So this is where we hold the line. We cannot bend on this issue. This is an issue that we have to stay and say, look, like, I want to self-custody my wealth. That shouldn't be a crime. And we really gotta stay solid on that. Anyways, guys, if you're enjoying the show, so make sure to smash that like button. Help us break 100 likes within the first 30 minutes on YouTube. Anyways, I do want to bring our very special guest. We got Crown. Crown, thank you so much for joining us. Crown has an incredible background. It's so pretty. It looks like a green screen, but it's real. I think. Crown, how you doing, man?
Real. Pretty good, man. How you guys doing?
Thank you so much for joining us. I do want to hit on this topic a little bit before we jump on the show. Crown, you've been a Bitcoiner for a while now. What's your take, man? Did the Samurai news catch you off guard as well?
Oh, I mean, definitely. So, I mean, I've had a little bit of a history with Samurai guys. Of course, they're pretty controversial figures generally. But regardless how we feel about them, what's happening to them isn't right, especially the reasons why it's happening to them. I mean, it's pretty scary that developers are starting to get, global raids against them for essentially just making privacy tools. So, I mean, who knows how it's gonna go out. It's kind of coincidental too, how it's just a month ago, they released plans to decentralize the Whirlpool for once. There was a lot of controversy with how the Whirlpool was, how They had a lot of control over the X pubs. They had a lot of access into seeing, kind of who was doing what. And now they were finally going to decentralize that. It was actually it was actually starting to look like it could be, I'd say more legitimate. And then all of a sudden, now they are rated. So that's not good.
Yeah, 100%. Opti.
Yeah, I mean, couldn't agree more with what JC was saying. And I mean, like, to be fair, and I was getting some flack on Twitter last night, but I was having some conversations with a bunch of Bitcoin friends yesterday, and I think the mood last night for all of us was pretty much the same. It seemed kind of dark. We're like, man, like, what do we even do here? We're definitely in the then they fight you stage. They're coming after us. And then, I don't know, I woke up this morning, I'm like, we're going to win. Like, we're winning so hard. This is awesome. This is what we were born for. So, I don't know. Last night I might have been a little bit pessimistic Fields after all the crazy news. And this morning doesn't feel that much better now that Phoenix is leaving. I had to close some channels and stuff. But, man, it just makes me know that we're on the right track, and no one said it was ever going to be easy. So here we are. It's Friday. We do have a meme review for you guys. So we'll end the week strong. We're still here. We'll still be here as long as we can be. And as long as we're not criminals on the internet, we're not doing anything. We're just trying to save in Bitcoin. It's crazy.
It's crazy, dude, that like we're kind of heading into this world where, writing down 12 words is considered like a crime. Like that is
doing
nuts.
Math is illegal, bro.
Like that is nuts, right? But I think it really calls into question, like, what is government? Like what are like, because the justification is always like for your safety, for your protection. And I think Bitcoin exposes all incentives, and I think it's exposing government and the nation state for what it is. Like they just see us as tax cattle. Like it's not a government by the people for the people. I think Bitcoin and really like information and the internet has really just exposed this machine to be like, it really feels like it's a government by the government for the government, and you're just kind of along for the ride. And then they give you an election every 2 years to make you feel like you have some type of say in all this. But it's just nuts. But anyways, one of those things that Bitcoin fixes, but it might be a bumpy transition to say the least. Anyways, guys, let's get to the numbers. We have a lot to talk about, but before we do that, I do want to give a extremely special shout out to the Bitcoin company that powers this show. And of course, I'm talking about Bitcoin Well. Bitcoin Well is the best place to build your automatic self-custody Bitcoin stack. It's a publicly traded company coming out of that recently expanded to all 50 US states. It is a self-custody by default platform. What does that mean? That means that you can't buy Bitcoin on Bitcoin Well unless you're going to take self-custody, which perfectly aligns with the Simply Bitcoin ethos of the separation of money and state. Support self-custody by default Bitcoin on-ramps like Bitcoin Well. To get started, go to bitcoinwell.com/simply. Also, if you're in Canada, they recently announced the cash vouchers now available to light accounts in the Bitcoin portal. Canadian customers can now buy Bitcoin with a Bitcoin Well account using cash vouchers, a payment rail designed to safely eliminate barriers to first-time Bitcoin Well customers. So it's incredibly easy. You can buy Bitcoin using cash vouchers in Canada. It's live now, so check it out. Anyways, guys, let's get to numbers. We have a lot to talk about today. Let's check it out. Here we go.
The Bitcoin numbers.
Is your Bitcoin in cold storage really secure? Is your seed phrase really secure? Stamp Seed's do-it-yourself kit has everything you need to hammer your seed words into commercial-grade titanium plates instead of just writing them on paper. Don't store your generational wealth on paper. Paper is prone to water damage, fire damage. You want to put your generational wealth on one of the strongest metals on planet Earth, titanium. Your words are actually stamped into this metal plate with this hammer and these letter stamps. And once your words are in, they aren't going anywhere. No risk of the plate breaking apart and pieces falling everywhere. Titanium stamped seeds will survive nearly triple the heat produced by a house fire. They're also crush-proof, waterproof, non-corrosive, and time-proof. All things that paper is not, allowing you to hodl your Bitcoin with peace of mind for the long haul. Stamp your seed on Stamp Seed. All right, everybody. At the time of recording, the Bitcoin price is 65,250 sats per dollar, 1,533. Also, you can scan the QR code on your screen right now. It'll take you directly to the Stamp Seed website, where you can use promo code SIMPLY to get 15% off. Store your seed phrase, your generational wealth properly. Stamp it on titanium. The market cap of Bitcoin is currently at 1.28 trillion, declined from all-time high 11.5%. The block height is currently at 840,670, halving estimate March 16th, 2028. Realized monetary inflation 1.72%. Forward monetary inflation 0.85%. You want to know why they hate Bitcoin? That is why. Annual mining revenue 14.2 billion. Money supply 19,689,377.37 Bitcoin. Bitcoin priced in gold 27.3 ounces. Bitcoin versus gold market cap 7.81%. In the grand scheme of things, we are just getting started. Anyways, I do want to show this video by Jack Mallers, man. He's so optimistic, dude. Like his energy. Here's the Bitcoin therapist, our friend, the Bitcoin therapist. And it says Jack Mallers expects the equivalent of at least 2 to 3x more money printing than the pandemic to bail out the US out of the next financial disaster. He predicts a $250K to $1 million Bitcoin price. Let's check out the video.
Okay, turning back to Bitcoin itself, I've heard you say this on a few interviews or podcasts and on other media. $1 million for Bitcoin. Walk us through your thesis of how it could get there.
I just don't think that enough people have a big enough imagination of this upcoming cycle I'm expecting. I mean, the bond market is in trouble for really arguably the first time in modern financial history. Bondholders are getting absolutely demolished and crushed. Now, David, who owns bonds? All of our banks. So our bank deposits aren't there because the bonds that were purchased with my deposit is underwater. And so if central banks and government is going to try and save that market, the amount of liquidity that's needed is going to send assets very high. I mean, you can try and do napkin math. And I joke, like, how many COVIDs are we going to get if they try and bail out this market that we're in today? You may get 2-3 COVID. So if that happens, it's impossible to speculate on an asset as scarce as Bitcoin. But I think 250,000 to $1 million is the imagination I have in that range of just how big this can get. And that's based on all the liquidity that's going to be required to make this market solvent.
Is that based on a steepening of the adoption curve, which we'll talk about in just a minute, or is that just based on normal market action, like more liquidity, like you mentioned, in the natural course of time just passing? Like, what is a catalyst is basically what I'm asking.
I think all the above. Well, we're talking about pricing Bitcoin in a piece of paper that's being actively debased, right?
Okay,
So
sure.
maybe a more interesting question is, how many houses can I get for my Bitcoins in a year? But given the fact that it is in dollars, I think that's where your imagination has to go insanely high because of the predicament that the government is in. On the other side of that, though, on the talk of adoption and just the notion of it, I think price is the most accurate KPI we have into Bitcoin adoption. What price tells me is a rather accurate measurement of how much of the world is using Bitcoin as money. And so I expect more of the world to take on Bitcoin as money, whether it be for any form of use case or value to them, because it is so appealing and solving so many different problems. So I expect adoption of Bitcoin as a monetary unit to go up. And then against the dollar in particular and other fiat currencies, I expect it to be violent to the upside.
So, I mean, love the way that Jack articulated it, the way that he put it. And I love that kind of saying, right, where that price kind of represents the amount of Bitcoin adoption. And I think that's a really interesting way of putting it. And then he also said something that Jeff Booth said when he came on Simply Bitcoin IRL, which is kind of like people like always want to know, but the reality is like, it's like if you use Bitcoin as your unit of account, then the question is not how much is that worth in fiat, but what is my purchasing power, right? Like, and if you take a look at price in Bitcoin, which we always show you guys that website, it's one of my favorite. everything's getting progressively cheaper on a Bitcoin standard, right? Housing, anything, it just gets cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. And I don't expect that trend to discontinue. I think it's going to continue, into the future. It kind of goes back into what Jeff Booth was saying, which I think is fascinating, which is like, we should be kind of living in this deflationary world because technology is deflationary, but governments can't have that because they won't be able to repay the debt. So they do everything in their power to kind of keep the gig going, like keep the racket going, right? Whether that's endless wars, the excessive amount of money printing, the capital controls, and now connect the dots with everything that I'm saying and apply it to these, these new hostilities towards the Bitcoin industry in the United States, right? It was going after Samurai, Phoenix pulling out, Wallet of Satoshi, this country that is built upon individualism and built upon innovation and built upon entrepreneurship, is becoming one of the most hostile locations to be a Bitcoin entrepreneur. And that's just going to force these Bitcoin these Bitcoin companies to start developing elsewhere. And that means those tax dollars go with it, right? So it's a losing battle for the US government, but I also don't blame them. They want to retain the power of being able to create money for free that everyone else has to work for. That's a tremendous privilege. It's a tremendous power. And, these politicians don't want to let go of that, right? So anyways, I want to get Crown's thoughts, and then we'll pass it on to Opti.
Yeah, and especially when it comes to all the justification for the raid that happened with Samurai, these exchanges shutting down, the wallet shutting down, all of this, supposedly, the criminal activity we're talking about is not allowing the government to spy enough on their customers to see whether or not they're paying taxes. Like, there's this massive infrastructure built around, not just in terms of really in terms of enforcement and regulation. All this bureaucracy is just to make sure, at least the justification is, just to make sure that you're paying your taxes. I mean, how far are they going to go, or how far can they go, just to say, like, hey, are you letting us spy enough? It's really absurd when you think about it. It's not like we're talking about necessarily people, dealing drugs or trafficking or all these other crazy things. It really comes down to, we need to know who your customers are so we can see whether they're paying their taxes or not. And that's nuts.
Yeah, totally.
100%.
Couldn't agree more.
Opti, what's your take on this, brother?
Yeah, so going back to just the Jack Mallers clip in general, first and foremost, of course, I got to kind of troll a little bit. I think that's my duty here as Opti on the show. I'm just a comedic relief here, guys, so bear with me. But I'm starting to get the feeling like $1 million Bitcoin price predictions is the new 100K of this cycle. And, it sounds great. And I really love the framing that Jack Mallers kind of framed it. It's like, you guys aren't thinking big enough. And again, me and Nico kind of been saying it for a couple of weeks now. Maybe we just have PTSD and we're like, oh my God, like, we're not going to get as high as everyone's thinking. And again, I've been trolling for a minute that, if we expand last cycle to our new price prediction, does everyone saying $1 million Bitcoin? And the last cycle, everyone was saying 100K Bitcoin, and we only got the 70K Bitcoin. So, let's just cut in the middle. We're going to 700K Bitcoin. I'm trolling. I don't know where this price prediction's coming from, guys. But I kind of agree with Mahler's low point on there. Like, I've been saying for a while, and again, I have no math behind this. It's just my oracles telling me this. But I've been saying for a while, probably like a year at least, that 250K seems to be a very conservative price prediction of where we're going, considering everything I always tell you guys on the show and everything we cover. Like, it does feel like there's a perfect storm out there for us Bitcoins and an incredible price appreciation. I've been saying it for a while, and if I have to run it down, it's like we have institutional demand for Bitcoin. We've seen what all the ETFs want. They want to take all the Bitcoin on the market. We're seeing that most of the Bitcoin in cold storage is held. It's been held for longer than a year. I think the numbers, I haven't checked recently, but it's like 70% of all Bitcoin is being hodled in cold storage, which is absolutely beautiful to see. We're seeing talking heads on the corporate legacy media being Bitcoiners. Shouts out to Charles Payne and Joe Kernan. They're the best Bitcoin podcasters in the game. And also we're seeing like price tickers on all of the corporate press sites in regards to Bitcoin. We're seeing that the corporate press cannot stop talking about Bitcoin, even if they're fighting Bitcoin. It's all good for Bitcoin. They're still talking about Bitcoin, and we have yet to see the retail FOMO that I think is on the horizon once the price starts moving. Like, go outside. We don't have the shoe shine boy meme playing out in real time, where if you go outside and you talk to the normies, they're not even talking about Bitcoin. I was thinking about this yesterday. I went and got some food. I got some KBBQ. You know, I had to do all I can eat meat last night. It was delicious. Gorged myself. But I was sitting there, and I was even saying this to my boy Joe Rogers from Bitcoin Mag. And I had a moment. I do this all the time when I go out and you know, go into the normie world. I like look around and I'm always thinking the same thing. I just look at people, and it's not me being judgmental, but I'm always thinking, like, do these people even know what's going on right now? And I couldn't see one person last night that would even acknowledge the liberty infringement that we are seeing play out, at least in the Bitcoin space or the privacy space at large last night. And I'm like, man, we're still so early. This thing's going to get crazy. And then I want to add on the last thing, and the last part of my rant. I've been saying for a minute, and I love how Jack said it. You know, I know Bitcoiners say that price doesn't matter. It doesn't matter pricing dollar or Bitcoin in dollars because dollars are whack, and you know it's literally paper IOUs and all that stuff. And the dollar's going down, and so how do you price something when they can print more of it and it's losing value and all that? But I legitimately just believe that the Bitcoin price is a real-time metric of people's understanding of Bitcoin. Like, I really love that framing, because the Bitcoin time chain is literally the only true data left in the world. All data has been manipulated. If you're believing any of the data come out from the corporate legacy press or all the institutions, it's all fake news. Like, it's all manipulated. It's all fake. And the only real data left in the world is the Bitcoin time chain. So I do believe that the Bitcoin price is important, especially to get people to, you know, FOMO into Bitcoin, for better or worse. And so, like, Bitcoin is the metric system for value in the world, and we'll see what happens in the price. Like, we don't know where the price is going. All we know is infinity divided by 21 million. It's going up forever, guys. Like, continue to stack Bitcoin, continue to accumulate, continue to play Hungry Hippo with Bitcoin. The more they attack us, the more I know we are correct. So even if they try to stop us from saving in Bitcoin, I know I'm never going back to the fiat system. I will hold Bitcoin for as long as humanly possible. I will acquire Bitcoin however way I have to, because I know that if they are this scared to try to stop privacy software and stop us from custodying our Bitcoin, again, it's just the standard meme of whatever the government tells you not to do is exactly what you should be doing, whether it's health, whether it's with your finances, whether it's getting outside and getting sun. Like, it's very simple. Just do the exact opposite.
You're
Am I going in the Matrix? Dude, right when I say the signal, I go in the Matrix. All right, I'll pop back in.
Look good to me.
Oh, man. All right, everybody. Let's get to the news. We have a lot to talk about today. Let's check it out. Here we go.
The Daily News.
I want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Foundation Devices. It's self-custody done right. They built a premium grade hardware wallet called Passport right here in the US. It's fully open source and verifiable. It's the most intuitive Bitcoin wallet designed with a UX reminiscent of a simple feature phone. So you will know how to navigate it and use it the moment you pick it up. Get your Bitcoin off exchanges and into your own hands in just a few minutes. Experience the peace of mind that comes with taking ownership of your own keys. After a massive sellout during Bitcoin Miami 2023, the Passport is back in stock at foundationdevices.com. Bitcoin only, open source verifiable, completely air-gapped security model, gorgeous design craft, premium grade materials. If you're thinking about getting your Bitcoin off exchanges, this is the one for you. Check out the Passport link in the show notes below to learn more. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's never been a more important time to take self-custody of your Bitcoin. Especially we're kind of heading into uncharted territory as the separation of money and state accelerates. And remember, the United States is the world. The United States government and the U.S. dollar is the world reserve currency. So, you know, it's Boy, I don't want to reference a sovereign individual, but holy shit, did they get it right again. Anyways, there's a battle going on. Obviously, Samurai Wallet, yesterday, that stuff happened. And the next step is self-custody. This isn't just me saying this. It's just incredibly obvious. And this is the hill to die on. This is where we hold the line. We cannot bend on this issue. That is how they co-opt Bitcoin. If they convince enough people, buy the ETF, buy this captured Bitcoin, you're going to have exposure to number go up. Self-hosted Bitcoin is dangerous. That is the next narrative. No, it's not. It's not. Writing down 12 where you cannot convince me that somehow that is a danger to society. You cannot convince me that somehow individuals being able to hold unconfiscatable, undebasable wealth is somehow dangerous to another human being. You know who it is dangerous to? Politicians and bureaucrats that benefit from debasing the currency, that benefit from being able to create money for free that everyone else has to work for. So there are consequences when the FBI and the DOJ start arresting Bitcoin software developers. There are consequences to that. What are the consequences to that? Even if they're unintended, it stifles Bitcoin innovation in the United States. It scares away Bitcoin companies. They want to leave. And yesterday, I don't like to get into these conversations, but I literally said, I'm like, if this current administration wins re-election and they stay in power, it would be terrible. It would be terrible for the Bitcoin industry. Put the politics aside. I just don't care about that. But if you go through all the things that they have done, they sabotaged Caitlin Long's bank, Operation Choke Point 2.0. They wrote a paper about how CBDCs are wonderful, they're the future, and how Bitcoin can't be money because it's not a state. They, not to mention the environmental tax, the proposed 30% tax on Bitcoin miners. Like, it's been horrific. And I just want to emphasize this with you guys. It's not a left or right issue. It's not a Democrat Republican issue. It's a party of green versus a party of orange, right? It's just like, it sucks. It's just terrible. Like, if you want to stay in the US, if you don't, and I think a lot of the Bitcoin innovation is going to be pushed overseas, then this doesn't matter to you. But it's horrific. And there are alternatives. Like RFK Jr. has gone on record. He even spoke at the Bitcoin conference, literally saying, that if he's elected into office, he'll support the right to self-custody. Right. So there are alternative candidates, but it's just nuts, that this government that's supposed to represent you is hostile towards people wanting to choose an alternative money that can't be debased, that's unconfiscatable. It's almost as if they want to control you. That's what it seems like. Maybe I'm wrong there. But it's incredibly unfortunate. Especially, the US is the land of the what is it? The home of the brave, land of the free. Like, doesn't look like it from my vantage point. Anyways, here's the founder of Zeus. Here's Dylan LeClaire. And here are some words that Zeus put out. It says, we believe that Zeus is following the letter of the law right now. If the law changes, any judgments are made, we will make adjustments accordingly. If Zeus falls, all other node operators are next. If Lightning node operators fall, self-custody is next. This is the hill to die on, self-custody. If you don't agree, you were never in Bitcoin for the right reasons. So get behind us or go home. Future generations are watching and depending on us. So why did Zeus say this? They said they're staying. That hasn't been the case for other Lightning wallets in the United States. Phoenix Wallet said that on May 3rd, 2024, Phoenix Wallet will be removed from US app stores. This is following something very similar that the wallet of Satoshi did as well. They pulled out of the United States. You know, it's probably not a good indication when wallet of Satoshi isn't available in 3 countries, two of them being total totalitarian, North Korea, China. Can you imagine that? Wallet of Satoshi not available, North Korea, China, the United States. Like, what the fuck is that, bro? Phoenix wallet, same thing, right? Pulling out of the United States. It's available in South America, Central America, but the United States somehow it's not available.
It's because we're the only country. Yeah. Because we're the only country that'll send helicopters to you no matter where you are in the world and snatch you up because you let somebody buy some Bitcoin on an exchange.
It's nuts, right? Here's Francis Pulio, the founder of, Bull Bitcoin. He says, great decision. Sorry for Americans, but they are just too toxic. Alex Thorne, man, it would be great if the U.S. was still the land of the free. Mandrick, this week keeps getting worse. Mr. Hoddle, what happens if U.S. users don't empty their wallets? All right, lots of questions, but these are tumultuous times. Now, this is what I want to get to, and I didn't have an opportunity to cover it yesterday because this broke after yesterday's show, but this was the public service announcement coming out of the FBI. Mind you, a lot of things were happening. You have to connect the dots, everybody, because there's been multiple events, right? Whether that's the Elizabeth Warren bill that's currently in Congress that would be a de facto ban on Bitcoin mining and self-custody in the United States, whether that was the press conference for CZ, where they were basically, indicting CZ, indicting Binance for money laundering, all that stuff. And I remember I was still working at Swan at the time, and we were hosting a Spaces live streaming the conference for CZ. And everyone was very happy, because Binance is this shitcoin casino and all that stuff. When they said and spoke in that press conference, and they had all the heavy hitters, they had Janet Yellen, they had Merrick Garland, they mentioned the word terrorism 34 times. Binance terrorism, Bitcoin terrorism, crypto terrorism. Remember the Wall Street Journal article that turned out to be totally bogus, where they tried to connect Bitcoin with Hamas and they tried to take advantage of the crisis happening in Palestine and Israel. Like, this is nuts, right? And again, this is statecraft. This is lawfare. Like, they've done this methodically to get to this point. Tornado Cash set the precedent. They went after the small fish. They got sued. They won those lawsuits. Then they upped the game. They went after the bigger fish, and they're getting away with it as well, right? This is horrific because the vast majority of people that are using these services are just individuals seeking privacy. It's a very small percentage of people that are using these services that are doing it for illicit finance. I mean, are you going to go make cash illegal? I mean, they're trying to do that too, right? It's like this surveillance state. And again, this is completely against the Fourth Amendment, which literally says no unreasonable searches and seizures. I think reporting every $600 transaction, which is what they had proposed last year, to the government is pretty unreasonable, right? If you ask my opinion. But I think we are in the movie, we're in the part in the movie where that stuff just starts to go out the window. End stage fiat. Anyways, so here's the quote unquote public service announcement from the FBI. And the FBI warns Americans against using cryptocurrency money transmitting services that are not registered as money services businesses, according to the United States federal law. The FBI has recently conducted law enforcement operations against cryptocurrency services which were not licensed in accordance with federal law. People who use unlicensed cryptocurrency money transmitting services may encounter financial disruptions during law enforcement actions, especially if their cryptocurrency is intermingled with funds obtained through illegal means. Cryptocurrency money transmitting services that purposely knowingly facilitate illegal transactions will be investigated by law enforcement. Using a service that does not comply with its legal obligation may put you at risk of losing access to funds after law enforcement operations target those businesses. Now, I think here's the tell. Tips to protect yourself. Before using a money transmitting service, check whether it is registered as an MSB with the U.S. Treasury Department's Financial Crimes Enforcement Network. It goes on to say, beware of financial services that do not ask for KYC information, including name, date of birth, address, ID, before allowing you to send and receive money or cryptocurrency. Understand that just because an app can be found in an app store does not necessarily mean it is a legal service and it is complying with federal requirements. Avoid using services that advertise themselves for illegal purposes. Be cautious when using cryptocurrency services known to be used by criminals to launder their funds. I mean, that last line, that's what Elizabeth Warren has been trying to force feed the American public. I mean, like, as of like one of her literally most recent letters, dated April 25th, 2024. Watcher Group, breaking news. U.S. Senator Elizabeth Warren writes letter to the DOJ claiming cryptocurrency is the payment of choice for, I don't want to say that on YouTube, abusive materials. Yeah, I mean, you see where they're going with this, right? And that language in that letter, I mean, man, beware of financial services that do not ask KYC information, including name, date of birth, address, and ID. I mean, how long until they say, hey, Sparrow Wallet, there's no date of birth, address, or ID. It's a financial service. Technically, it's facilitating transactions, bro. How long until they say that? Like, it's so obvious. Avoid using services understand that just because an app can be found in an app store, yes, us, the federal government, we have to dictate what apps you can download and what apps you can't download. And it's tips to protect yourself. How about tips to protect yourself from inflation? How about tips to protect yourself from irresponsible, fiscal spending? How about that? How about tips to protect yourself from government? How about that? This is never talked about. It's for your protection, citizen. Like, this is absolutely absurd. Here's Lynn Alden's take on this. She says, it's increasingly the case that that a lot of good Bitcoin apps work in dozens of other countries, but not in the United States. The US is kind of slowly firewalling itself from the rest of the world in terms of financial innovation. Completely agree. Here is, I believe this is Jack Mahler's mom, Brooke, the Bitcoin mom. She says, when we were audited, the IRS crypto committee told our accountant that cold storage was, quote, a huge red flag. Mr. Hoddle went on to ask her, how long ago was this? She responded, last year. Someone said, what do you mean by that? You can't hold your own keys? She responded, holding your own keys is considered suspicious. We argued that it is an industry standard to take your coin off exchanges. That's right. Self-custodying your Bitcoin is considered suspicious. Here is Brian, sorry, man, I can't say your last name, head of public policy at Riot Platforms. Let's check out what he has to say about unhosted wallets.
It is the electronic equivalent of a wallet holding the cash in your pocket. That is basically what an unhosted wallet is. It's a wallet that holds your Bitcoin in a way that your physical wallet would hold your US dollars. So by classifying wallets or wallet providers as brokers, you're essentially putting the individual almost, or if you're talking about a wallet provider, I guess the company who made your leather wallet, like Coach, if you have like a Coach leather wallet, like you're saying that they're the same thing as like a bank or stock exchange, or they're like Coinbase, basically. Like, obviously that's not true. The goal behind the policy, now this is an IRS action, so tax collections presumably is the goal, but the ramifications would be very sweeping. You could loop it into the Bank Secrecy Act and sanctions regime. Talk about freezing assets and seizing assets and reappropriating assets. Then you're subjecting what is in effect people's physical cash to those regulatory structures.
So why is this happening? I think you have to ask yourself, like, what is happening? And again, I can't emphasize this enough. And it's one of the awesome parts that I absolutely love about Bitcoin, is that Bitcoin exposes incentives. I can't say that enough. Bitcoin exposes incentives. So if you're a tyrannical government, whatever it is, If you're, whatever it is that you're trying to do, Bitcoin eventually exposes you for what you are and what you're trying to do. Now, Lynn has this incredible take on why this is happening. So she posted this yesterday on Nostr. And she goes on to say, the entire developed world tax apparatus that was built in the 20th century and extends into the 21st century depends on ubiquitous financial surveillance. They're not going to give that up without a fight. I've been saying at a number of conferences and podcasts that privacy is the main battleground for the next decade. Back in the 19th century and before, money was mostly private. There were plenty of dictators, but there were no major method of surveilling all transactions. Therefore, things like broad income taxes were untenable to enforce. But in the 20th century, as money increasingly moved around at the speed of light, people needed bank accounts to keep up. It wasn't all forced on them. They chose it, and those bank accounts were centralized, surveillable, and ruggable. This allowed authorities to switch to income taxes, which required ubiquitous financial surveillance to work, and it ultimately allowed them to switch to fiat currency altogether. Now in the 21st century, Bitcoin in its various layers allows people to hold and move around money globally without permissioned banks. They can do so peer-to-peer, or they can do so with custodians and open layers, etc. Unlike the base layer of fiat, the base layer of Bitcoin is permissionless. But this represents a threat to the entire current system of taxation and financial control. If Bitcoin, and particularly various private methods on top of it, were to be adopted at a massive scale, the entire tax structure and other things would need to be reshaped themselves around that reality. So they won't make it easy. They will try to criminalize financial privacy as much as possible while the network is still pretty small. So, I mean, like, that's what's happening right now. So the whole kind of like bait and switch of like, this is for your safety, citizen, that's absolute bullshit. Once again, I'm going to reference the sovereign individual. The authors of the sovereign individual also predicted that the rise of this new cyberspace and consequently cyber money will make it harder for a nation state to collect taxes from its citizens. They compare the state to a farmer keeping cows in a field to be milked, but that soon the cows will have wings. They predict that for the government to collect taxes from its citizens in this type of society, it would have to violate human rights. Even traditionally civil countries would have to resort and turn nasty. Lacking their accustomed scope to tax and inflate, governments, even in traditionally civil countries, will turn nasty. Businesses that offer services that facilitate the realization of autonomy by individuals will be subject to infiltration, sabotage, and disruption. You guys get the general gist of it, right? So when I also talk about taxation, I'm not talking about direct taxation, income taxation. That's a whole other issue. Some people agree with that. Some people disagree with that. I'm talking about what they need in order to keep this going, which is taxation via inflation. The US government spent 1.7 trillion with a T, that's more than the GDP of most countries, more than they collected in tax revenue last year. How were they able to afford that spending? They printed the difference. It wasn't free. They stole the energy and time of people and they gave it to themselves, right? So that's why I found it utterly disgusting when they're literally waving their Ukrainian flags, right? And talking about sending another $60 billion to Ukraine, and again, fine, you want to support that, that's okay. But then why don't these politicians go to the public and say, hey guys, we're raising the tax rate to be able to pay for this foreign war? I bet you most people wouldn't agree with that. But the reason that people are agreeing with that, the reason that people are going along with that is because they don't realize that they're being stolen from, right? Those things cost money. The thing is that it's like a cognitive dissonance type of occurrence and phenomenon, because they don't see the actual number value on the dollar going down. So like, oh, I still have $100 in my bank account. What is the purchasing power of those $100? And you'll see that it just continues to decrease day after day. And what is the sole primary cause of that? Debasing the currency, printing money, right? So they're trying to keep people in. This isn't only just happening in the United States, in the European Union as well. Here's a No BS Bitcoin article. EU Parliament adopts new financial surveillance rules for service providers. Right? Here's Dylan Leclerc once again. They're going to go after self-custody because they need capital controls to properly execute financial repression. Capital is sufficiently captured in the walled garden ETFs. Widely adopted self-custodial Bitcoin used as a MOB with privacy tools present an existential threat. So make no mistake, when you see these announcements by the FBI, when you see them going on the podium talking about Binance, and when you see them, charging Arthur Hayes BitMEX, when you see them doing all these things, like I'm sorry, man, it has nothing to do with protecting the public. It has to do with protecting their moat. And you can make an argument that, Binance was selling shit coins and that hurts people. I agree. But I don't think it's the role of government to get to decide what people can buy and what people cannot buy. This is a very slippery slope if we go down that direction. This is a very similar direction of when you hear them talking about Bitcoin's energy use. And then they try to basically lie to the public and say, like the New York Times article, they doctored the image in the sky and they said, oh, this is bad for the environment. This is horrific. And then Pierre Richard goes there with a meter. It's like, whoa, this Bitcoin miner, it's not really emitting any CO2. What's going on there? Right? So clearly, because they can't really hold up that argument, they can't really convince the public, toasters and video games are okay and washing machines, but Bitcoin miners, they're not okay in terms of how we look at them, right? If you cumulatively add how much electricity video games use and washing machines and all these things, it's a tremendous amount of electricity. So why do Bitcoin miners, why are they proposing a 30% tax on Bitcoin miners, but they're not proposing a 30% tax on video games? Well, it's obvious. They just don't want competition. That's what it's all about. They want the privilege. They want the ability, the godlike power, because that's what it is, of being able to create money for free that the rest of us have to work for. Bitcoiners fundamentally believe that no one should have that godlike power, because that's what it is. In the Bitcoin world, as much as they call it private money, if you want to make more Bitcoin, you got to earn it. You got to mine it like everyone else, or you got to buy it. There's no other way. We live in a world now where a bureaucratic elite in Washington, D.C. can make money out of nothing. And this, by the way, happens worldwide. Bitcoin is a fundamental threat to that system, the way it functions, and all this lawfare, all this statecraft comes from that. It does not come from protecting the public. And it's our responsibility as Bitcoiners to get that message out there. Because once people wake up to the racket and the scheme that is happening, all these divisions, because that's what I believe it is, like the left and the right, the conservatives, the liberals, whatever, that goes away. Once people realize, holy crap, what is really causing my problems is not the person in the White House. It's the fact that they're stealing from all of us via currency debasement, which disproportionately affects the lower and middle classes the most, because they're the ones that are saving and earning in fiat, right? So this is the separation of money and state. This is the peaceful revolution. We die on the hill of self-custody. We do not back down. That's where we stand our ground. And, I don't know what the future holds. I have no idea. But we're getting into a territory, we're getting into a phase where you're going to have to decide. Zeus took a very bold and brave step to say, we're holding our ground. We have to hold our ground, because if we lose this, our future is just going to be a future of slavery. So do you want a future of slavery, or do you want a future of freedom? Do you want a future of Bitcoin? Anyways, Opti, what's your take on all this, brother? Again, bro, holy shit, dude. Holy fuck. It's not surprising, but at the same time, it still gets hurt. It still hurts to get punched, bro. It still hurts to get punched. Not surprised. We knew the punch was coming, but it still took the wind out of us, you could say.
Yeah, man. Like I was saying, yesterday after the show, we got all the samurai news, and then that FBI notice letter came out, and it was like another blow. And we've been chatting. It's like we knew this was coming, but it seems to be happening a lot quicker than any of us have thought it would. And not only that, it also seems like it is going to become a coordinated effort across all of the first world nations. So it seems like what we've been saying for a while is actually playing out, and they are doing their best to try to stop the escape hatches. And man, it does seem like a dire moment. As I was saying yesterday, it seems like a before and after moment, especially for us in America. And it just reminds me that this is the most important time for us to be spreading the best Bitcoin practices, making sure people are taking their Bitcoin into custody. Like, we're not breaking the law by taking our money into custody. I really like that video. I forget who it was, but he's basically saying, like, look, man, it's like taking your cash into your wallet. Like, is that an illegal movement in the US? Like, no. It's very interesting that as they try to clamor for more control, they are painting literally non-nefarious activities like we're all criminals. That's why yesterday I tweeted, like, hey, Bitcoin Anon, are you ready to be called a criminal for just taking Bitcoin into custody? Like, just for holding Bitcoin now, we're criminals. Is because they're absolutely afraid. They know what's going on over here. They may not know all the technicalities of Bitcoin and all that stuff. They may still have the hubris thinking that they can stop this, but they know what is at stake. And what's at stake is the ultimate power. If you have the money printer, you have the ultimate power. And they're trying to ensure that they keep their moat, that they keep their power. And then on the Phoenix news, you didn't touch on it particularly, but Jack Mallers and Jack Dorsey just came out as well as saying, like, this seems like a completely unnecessary move. But hey, businesses are going to make their decisions, and they're going to do what's best for themselves. So shouts out to Zeus. I even saw Amboss tweet that they're not going anywhere. I don't think anything has really changed in regards to where some Lightning companies stand. But again, like, they're businesses, they have to protect themselves, and it sucks to see. Like, Phoenix Wallet's a great wallet. I'm kind of bummed that I can't recommend that to people anymore. But again, like, we're not surprised. We've been calling this for a while. And really, with that notice, I think they have exposed their hand a lot, and it shows what they want to come down the pipeline. Again, Bitcoin's the escape hatch, and they got to do whatever they can to gaslight the population out there. And then, game playing this out, game theory, and extending this out. It really is interesting that they released the Bitcoin ETF 2-3 months ago, and now they're clamping down on self-custody. And as we've been saying, the spot Bitcoin ETFs are captured Bitcoin, and now it's becoming clearer and clearer that that's the case. And if you are buying Bitcoin on exchanges, now is the time to take your Bitcoin into custody. And again, just doubling down on that notice, like, it's really incredible, and really circles back to what Lizzie Warren's been saying about unhosted wallets. It's like, we know where this is going, and now is the time to put in the time to ensure that your Bitcoin is safe, that you don't get wrecked in this transitioning period. Like, we know that we are in the then they fight you stage now, and we know what happens after the then they fight you stage. It's the then we win stage, but we don't know how long this stage will be. It could be for a long time, but things are really ramping up, and it is very concerning as an American in the US, considering what the federal government is thinking about us. And man, like, I know Nico's been saying for a while that we might have to move to El Salvador, and I've been kind of anti that meme. But man, it's really looking like it's leaning that way. So absolutely incredible to see. And, on the one hand, very terrifying, and also just like disheartening. Last night, again, like I was saying, I was on the phone with a bunch of friends, and we were all like, man, like, things are heating up, and it's just really crazy that this is where we are. And it's more important than ever to ensure that people are taking Bitcoin into custody, and that you don't absolutely wreck yourself. So, hey, crazy times we're in, but as a Bitcoiner, as someone that's been around for a while, I wouldn't say that we're surprised. It's just like, it's very disheartening to see, the land of the free go this totalitarian so overtly. And yeah, man, like, the people in power right now, they don't care about your personal liberties. We've seen that constantly. They don't care about the Constitution. And man, it just it's definitely a wake up call.
Self-custody is the line we draw in the sand. If self-custody fails, this Bitcoin revolution fails. That's it. We do not bend on this issue whatsoever. Self-custody is a right. If you're going to try to convince me that writing down 12 fucking words is dangerous and illegal, dude, like you're definitely doing some shady shit in the background. And I think, like I said, Bitcoin exposes incentives. Guys, there's 1,110 of you guys watching live between YouTube and X, and about 80 of you guys watching live on Rumble. So if you guys are enjoying the show so far, make sure to smash that like button. Help us push the orange signal forward. More people need to hear this message. More people need to be aware of what is going on, because I think most people are still asleep. Anyways, Crown, I do want to give you the mic, man. Me and Opti have been going ham. We apologize. It's like, dude, it's just one of those days, one of those episodes where, we had this crazy breaking news. So what's your take on this? You've been in Bitcoin for a while. You're American as well. How do you feel about this, man?
Well, I love what you said about red or orange versus green. That was a really good way to put it. All the political stuff really comes down to, ultimately, for the citizens, it should come down to freedom and sovereignty. I mean, and it's a good time to remember, when Bitcoin came out, it wasn't taken for granted that the government was going to accept it. In fact, it came out at a time when the government was already shutting down things like Liberty Reserve and other centralized attempts to digitize money. So Bitcoin was a technology that was supposed to not give a fuck about what the government thinks. It was supposed to be a technology that gives you, and it is a technology that gives you the freedom to use it if you want to use it. Nobody can stop you. No reliance on third parties. That's also why the real layer twos like Lightning are so important, because when you use Lightning, a lot of people take this for granted, especially when they complain about UX, et cetera, and they compare it to far less sovereign L2 or L2s. Lightning allows you to use it yourself with your own node. You can use it on Tor, so nobody can come and, find out who you are, whatever. You can do it totally anonymously, connect to whoever you want, and participate in a peer-to-peer network of commerce without permission. The Lightning does it was built that way intentionally to kind of fight against that control system of government that's trying to, ultimately put their finger on the scale in a way that I don't really feel is relevant. I mean, it is relevant because we live here. I live in the United States, and if they ban it in the United States, one of the things that the government could do, I mean, if they did, like they are kind of now, if they did try to, let's say, ban every Bitcoin tool from every app store, all that's going to do, same thing it did with when they shut down Napster, it's going to get people really familiar with how to download APKs, how to use them, how to, go to GitHub and verify things for themselves. And it's just going to increase the education of the citizens, just like when China banned YouTube and everything else. It doesn't mean that people in China don't use it. They just learned how to not give a fuck what the government wants them to do. And that's what people in the United States and other countries that become more authoritarian will also do. And it's because this is the technology that allows them to do that.
100%.
Wait, Nico, before we move on, sorry, I'd like to ask JC a question. On the idea, we've been saying it for a while. I think what we're constantly realize here on the show is that education and at least showing people the problems is the most important thing to be doing, but also the apathy from just the average person is sometimes mind-blowing. So what's your thoughts on that idea of just people not caring about privacy and not caring about the infringements of their rights and all that stuff?
I mean, a lot of people don't care until they have to care. I actually had an argument recently with a guy who was telling me that, he thinks government can do no wrong. Anything government does, anything government says, it's great. If you give him an example of government overreach, any example in the United States, he'll say, well, that's just because you're not educated enough on it. You don't know the facts. If they did it, it was for the right reason. It was for a good reason, and then you dig a little deeper and it's like, well, did you ever download an illegal, on a movie that, copyrighted movie? And he's like, well, nobody cares about that. It's like, yeah, but, you read that little FBI warning, like $100,000 fine. What if they, all of a sudden decided that you owe them $3 million? Is that cool? I don't think that's very cool, and he can't really argue with that. It's kind of obvious. And in that case, I'm sure he would support a law or whatever that says, he's allowed to not pay that $3 million fine. So, I mean, people aren't going to care until they have to care. And that's why I say, if they start to ban these apps in a bigger way, which looks like they might do, I don't know. I think we're going to see more pushback from even regular people. I mean, it's surprising to me how much the let's just say the blue-haired tech community hasn't really gotten on Bitcoin's side yet for the most part, but I think they will. I think even if they don't care about Bitcoin necessarily as a money or as a freedom technology, I do hope and think eventually they're going to have no choice but to support us in terms of freedom. I mean, it's getting kind of obvious.
100%. Look, they want, this is Pierre Richard, to give him credit. This is not my words, but they want a central bank digital currency monopoly. And this is not American. This is the most anti-competitive, collectivist bullshit I've ever seen, right? Like they're literally like, like going after a specific industry, because it competes with the dollar, right? Like that's literally what they're doing. And all this like, oh, it's for your protection. Like, the silver lining in that sense is that they expose themselves the more they do that. So anyways, guys, before we get into the culture, I do want to give a shout out to our sponsor, the Orange Pill app. Stack friends who stack sats. Join the 10,000 Bitcoiners that are currently on the app. They consider themselves the Bitcoin social layer. If you move to a new city or you're traveling and you don't know any Bitcoiners around you, the Bitcoin social app is a great resource. You pull it up, it will show you the Bitcoiners that are around you geographically. You can send them a message, you can connect with them. They also have a very clever filtration system, so you'll only find Bitcoiners on the app. It's really cool. Join the Simply Bitcoin Orange Pill app group chat. It's popping in there. You can do that by checking the link in the video description. It's one of the best ways to reach me and Opti directly is the Orange Pill app. Download the Orange Pill app today. Connect with fellow Bitcoiners. Bitcoiners are going to be some of the most powerful, influential people in the next 5 to 10 years. So it's probably a good idea to build up that Bitcoin Rolodex. All right, everybody, let's get to the culture. Lots to talk about.
The Daily Culture.
All right, everybody. I also want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Racks, the most trusted place to buy, sell, and host mining equipment. You can check out their racks by scanning the QR code or checking the link in the video description. That will take you directly to their Telegram marketplace, so you can connect with a member of their sales team. They make purchasing their products easy and transparent. You could also sell your mining equipment with Kaboom Racks. Access their vast network of domestic and international customers when you sell your mining equipment with them. Guys, check out Kaboom Racks. This is where I personally buy my Bitcoin mining ASICs. Start your mining journey today. Scan the QR code or check the link in the video description. Opti.
Yeah, well, wait, before we do that, though, shouts out the Daft in the chat, dropping $100 super chat and saying, keep your heads up, hodlers. The future is ours. Double horns for that one. Appreciate it, bro. Appreciate it. Yeah, so JC, man, we covered a lot on the show, and I know you wanted to talk on the halving and how bullish that is, but I think I want to start with the idea of, like, you've been in Bitcoin for a long time, and so I really want to start with the idea of why Bitcoin is important and why Bitcoin and not crypto, and what that means to you. So if there's people in the chat that are still kind of on the fence of not being Bitcoin only, what would be your advice to them, and what was the journey that got you here?
Wow, man. I mean, that's a big one. So, I did get into Bitcoin a long time ago. I saw, the ups and downs, and 2017, that's when I think crypto really kind of exploded in most of our bubbles. And I say crypto, not Bitcoin. Bitcoin exploded too, but that's when crypto really exploded in most of our bubbles. And I kind of, like many people, unfortunately, got caught up in some of the exuberance and some of the ICO stuff. And obviously, in hindsight, and even then, it should have looked. And I have a lot of respect for those who could see it from the beginning. That's great. But I kind of, I've always been like a freedom maximalist, and I thought that maybe there's some validity here. Maybe, it seems cool. Like, why not allow people to buy whatever they want and kind of like fund their own companies if they want without any government interference? Like, we don't need to be an accredited investor. We can just, like, if we think a company's cool, we can buy the token, whatever. Like, it seems cool. Companies were doing supposedly cool things, cool technology, and I did work with some companies at that time because I thought like that was a logical step in enhancing freedom for people. But kind of seeing how the sausage was made, it opened my eyes up really quickly. And since then, I've done there's an anonymous podcast I do with Guy Swan. I'm kind of doxing myself a little bit, called the Shitcoin Insider, where we unravel a lot of the guts of how some of these tokenomics for these DeFi things and other things work. A lot of Bitcoins, rightfully so, they don't really, they get approached by some DeFi guy about how great the technology is, and obviously, since they know it's a scam, they don't really know the tech. So we do a show where we break down some of the concepts for Bitcoiners so they know like why these things suck. And they can articulate that if they want to when they are discussing these things with these people. But I mean, ultimately, it comes down to, I mean, they're trying to build financial perpetual motion machines where they think that you can get more money out of a machine than you put in, and that's just not possible. The only way to make those things last is to make it, you know, kind of die as slow as possible. And ultimately, it's just, I mean, fundamentally super poor. So with a lot of these things, you've got the like Ethereum, for example, as the biggest example anyway. You have this like lie of freedom. You have this deception of freedom where they say it's a decentralized world computer, and then, you know, you get into the tech, you get into the fundamentals of how it works, you get into the governance structure of it, and you realize, I mean, you know, they used to say that the mining was more decentralized than Bitcoin, for example, and the counter argument then would have been, yeah, but the nodes are all centrally controlled by Infura and the Ethereum Foundation, which are essentially the same thing. And then, you know, they would argue whatever debate, and then we saw it when they released Ethereum 2.0. It didn't matter how decentralized or not the miners were because they all got fired, and, you know, by decree moved on to the new thing. That's how easy it is to change something is a really good metric for how centralized it is. One of the ways you know Bitcoin is still very decentralized because it's very, very hard to change. Ask any Bitcoin developer, someone get pretty mad at that, but I think it's a great thing. Not that you can't change it, but that it should always be very hard to change. So I think that this lie to freedom that Ethereum and other coins bring is actually a lot more harmful than good for the Bitcoin ecosystem. You know, you'll get DeFi guys tell you, well, we're on the same team. We both want to bring down the Fed, but, you know, I don't think the world would be any better at all if instead of the Fed we had like the Ethereum Foundation. I think in many ways that would be even worse. We wouldn't be it wouldn't be an upgrade at the very least. We'd have the same fundamentally bad things in terms of control, centralized authority. You know, whoever. I mean, then you chat JP Morgan running the show instead of, I don't know, the president. It's not to the extent that those are already not the same thing. I think it's a huge distraction that takes us off the course of Bitcoin itself, which is an actual tool for freedom. It's actually decentralized. It actually doesn't have anybody controlling it. That's the short version, anyway.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Okay. All right. Great. Great TLDR there. Let's talk about the halving. You popped on earlier, like, yeah, I want to talk about the halving because I think this is very bullish for everything going on. So can you elaborate? What's your thoughts there?
Oh yeah, so I mean, halving in general is always bullish. The emission cutting in half is huge. You know, I've seen anyway, some people bring to my attention some arguments. Well, it was only, you know, like 3% of the rate. The supply that's left is so small. But I think one person, Otto Barbarian from Atlanta, Barbarian, he put it best. I think he said, "What if I told you there was a guy who's going to buy 450 Bitcoin a day from now on and never sell?" Would you think that was bullish? And I think, yeah, that sounds pretty bullish. Well, how do you know he's not going to sell, though? And the answer is because that's essentially what we have with the halving now. We have about 450 less Bitcoin per day going to the market in circulation, being created, and it you know, can never be sold again. It's gone. So that's a massive impact. At current prices, it's about $1 billion a month. So $1 billion a month that, and now especially as this is the first halving where we've been this dependent on ODC desks and all these companies that are feeding, these financial institutions that are feeding miners or feeding the desire from Wall Street to soak up billions of dollars worth of Bitcoin. And now they've got, you know, $1 billion less at current prices. It's a huge deal. I mean, imagine if tomorrow the McDonald's chicken nugget factory was only going to make half the chicken nuggets. I mean, that would just collapse the chicken nugget market. You know what I mean? You wouldn't be able to get one. And if it were a free market, you'd have to pay a fortune for one. It's not, you wouldn't just pay double, you'd pay a lot more if that happened than double. And that's essentially what's going on with Bitcoin now. And then of course we had the shenanigans with all the new shitcoinery going on. And I don't know how much we want to mention that. It's pretty sad to see. I know that there are a lot of cool people at Bitcoin Magazine. I have friends there too. But it's pretty sad to see them kind of leading the way, especially with David Bailey on trying to extract as much money as they can from otherwise innocent people on their speculative games in the same way that the Ethereum and other crowds have, just putting a Bitcoin sticker on it. We saw the Epic Stats sell recently for $3 million, I think. David had predicted that it was going to be over $5 million. So you might think they might think it was bullish, but it actually fell short by over about 50% of what he was hyping it as. So, you know, I think either he knew he was lying, which probably is the case, or I mean, I think it's going to be like Jack Dorsey's tweet that was sold for millions of dollars and then eventually resold for like $12,000. Whoever bought that, good luck selling it again. But I mean, we've seen with runes. I mean, most of you probably don't look at the market. And if you do, you know that a lot of them are instantly duds. Even the hot ones are down 50% almost right away. This thing, I don't think it's going to last very long. They're kind of trying to relaunch their tokens over and over again and just put a new face on it. So first it was ordinals, then BRC20 was the brand, and now runes, and there's a few other even smaller weird ones mixed in there. On that note, RGB is going to be launching soon. I think even though that will enable some shitcoinery and some expressivity, it's truly a second layer like Lightning is, and it's backed by Tether. They'll probably want to run Tether on it, obviously. I think to the extent that you're the kind of person that does want to see Bitcoin, quote unquote, doing more, RGB is going to be the horse you're going to want to back. It doesn't pollute the chain. It uses payment channels. It allows you to do pretty much anything in a way that is very friendly to Bitcoin. They don't have a token. They've done everything right, essentially. Any way that they've almost gotten. It's kind of sucks doing things the right way if you're building this kind of infrastructure in quote unquote crypto, because the guys that do it the wrong way make tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions of dollars, sometimes billions of dollars, selling tokens that don't really do anything. And then the guys that do it the right way, like the team behind RGB, they get some funding from Tether, and that's about it. And then maybe they get some hate from people because maybe somebody will use it for shitcoins. But ultimately, I think if the world went, or I say the world, but if the people that like Bitcoin tokens went from ordinals or runes to RGB, it would actually benefit us instead of hurting us in terms of how it would affect the chain. It would probably increase Lightning liquidity because it's very compatible with Lightning Network. So that's a plus. Even if you didn't care about it, you'd actually benefit from it in terms of the liquidity you'd have. Whereas with the ordinals and the runes, the average user doesn't benefit at all, paying more fees to facilitate their spam. So I think that's another way to go that I think will ultimately be much better. If you're into that kind of stuff, which obviously shitcoins are fundamentally, I think, obviously a dumb idea. It's the opposite of Bitcoin. I mean, they have nothing. I mean, but there's all kinds of things you can do with expressivity in a decentralized way, especially as the government is cramping down on freedom tech. So so for those legitimate use cases that do exist that don't have tokens, especially, that would be a bonus for Bitcoin, and it doesn't require software. So that's a huge thing too.
Awesome. Well, speaking of RGB and Lightning, what's your thoughts on the current state of layer twos? You did mention before that you did work for some Lightning companies. So maybe a TLDR, people have been asking us to bring on people and talk about Lightning. What's your view on where layer twos are going currently?
I mean, it does depend on who you ask. I think Lightning is the most promising technology in terms of its redundancy and the ability to be sovereign on it. Lightning, it's very easy to maintain custody of your own coins while using it, and in many ways, it's even more resistant to, say, a 51% attack than a normal transaction would be, because your channels could be 1 or 2 years old, and that you have to have a 1 or 2 year reorg to impact that. So, which obviously is pretty much impossible. Now there have been there still are a lot of people working on it, a lot of money going into it, a lot of things that Dustin Dedimer and others are doing at Blockstream and other firms that are really bullish for it. And then of course there's always the possibility of soft forks that can help out. But then there's all this noise right now that I'm seeing, especially in Asia, in the Bitcoin L2 scene, where essentially the same VCs and people that have backed the Ethereum and Solana and other let's say DeFi schemes are now all creating dozens of Bitcoin L2 protocols, and most of them centralized around things like rollups. I think rollups are one of the biggest scams in crypto, not just for Ethereum, but especially for Bitcoin. Rollups are essentially trying to put blockchains on top of blockchains and calling it a scaling solution. And those blockchains, you have to ask, like, how decentralized are they? If you're just going to use another blockchain to decentralize your first blockchain, like, your security assumptions for that are basically only as good as the second one. And there are a lot of known problems. I mean, the data availability problem, who holds the data for this? Anything with global state, which means there's like everybody has to share the same state of information. That doesn't scale. If you're wanting to scale to, let's say, hundreds of millions of people or billions of people, you can't have one giant ledger that knows everything that everybody is doing in a way that's decentralized. It's just not feasible. So that's why I like solutions like Lightning, which each individual user only holds their own state. RGB is similar. You can't. It's just impossible to scale a system. Even Bitcoin itself, you hear of all these soft forks that people will justify saying, well, how is Bitcoin going to scale to billions of people? Well, it's not going to scale to billions of people no matter what on layer one, no matter what. I mean, you just can't create a database that everybody holds a copy of that will somehow monitor every single transaction in the entire world that everybody wants to do. That's just not realistic, no matter how good our hardware gets, practically. So layer twos are the only way, and especially the ones without a global state. So like rollups are a non-starter. They just pass the control and authority over to whoever's running those validators, which is, even worse than Ethereum. But it's also been even on Ethereum now. Everybody is talking about, there was a thing. I think it was diversity is sovereignty, trying to argue that the fact that they have all these separate competing roll-up chains now actually makes them more decentralized. But in fact, it just creates like lots of little mini rugs and lots of little mini controls that ultimately would centralize into one big validator again, which, yeah, there's a rabbit hole there. But when it comes to Bitcoin scaling, just look for anything with no global state, especially where you hold your own keys, obviously. And that's why I think Lightning and RGB, and then also in the same vein, Taproot assets are going to be the things to watch. And then I do love Arc as well. Don't know how much you guys have been following Arc. It's still ticking along. Arc is similar to Lightning in that it's a real L2. And in fact, one of the great things about Arc is where the big scaling problem with Lightning is that it still relies on one UTXO per user, at least a minimum of one UTXO per user. And you can't scale the UTXO set that easily. So you're still going to get into the problem of how many people you can onboard. But with Arc, you have these big ASPs, which you can onboard without a UTXO. That's really important. It means essentially arbitrarily unlimited onboarding, but it's limited in the number of transactions according to how much liquidity the ASP has. So the liquidity requirements can become onerous. But we have now two separate solutions: the Lightning Network, which is hard to onboard but can provide unlimited transactions, and Arc, which is easy to onboard but is limited in transactions. You combine the two, and you have a really nice relationship in unlimited onboarding and unlimited transactions. I think even without soft forks, we could go a long way with just software improvements and UX.
Love
Beautiful,
it,
man.
love the insights.
Man.
Well,
ripping it. Love
at
it.
the interest of time, because they're gonna yell at us if we don't do the meme review on Friday. So at the interest of time,
I don't think we have time.
Okay,
brother.
all right. Well, anyways, all right. JC, what is the last final message you want to leave with the audience?
Oh man, that's a lot of pressure. I mean, just focus on why Bitcoin is what Bitcoin is. Bitcoin was created as a freedom technology. It was not created in this world of kumbaya. Everybody's going to love each other. We're all going to be friends and cooperate. It was running a world where we don't give a fuck what you think or what you do. We're going to do what we do. We're going to run our node. We're going to follow the rules because we have no choice. And only things that we can do to affect that network, help everybody. The only thing you can do if you're a large corrupt individual is provide more hash. Good for you. Helps us all. Focus on that. The freedom that Bitcoin gives. And I mean, I think we're in for. I think it's only beginning. I know it's so cliche, but this hasn't even started yet. I mean, we've come a long way. We're going to far surpass gold. This is the new money. People in the future are going to look at the Bitcoin movement as the beginning of when money started.
Love it. Hold on.
Bars.
Love it. Nico, let's run the meme review. Run the meme review. I'll run through it.
It's an hour 23 minutes. No, we're gonna finish up at 1:30. It's gonna be way too long of a show.
Snet it.
We will. All right. Fine. All right.
Let's go.
This might butcher our numbers, but whatever.
Opti's Friday meme review. All right, guys. Don't say I never do anything for you guys. This is the meme review. The Friday meme review. We finally hit it on a Friday. You already know the deal. Tweet to the bullets, meme to the artillery. We are in the front lines of the information war, and it's never been more important to get the calls of actions out there, spread the memes, make sure people understand why we do what we do, which is freedom. This is freedom money. Make sure you accept the ideas of freedom. All right, guys, let me get into this. So this first one is by Schmidt1024 on Twitter. And, we got the classic, I would say this is like some USSR propaganda, but what do I know? It's a lady telling some guys with suits and guns and a dog and saying, this one has self-custody wallet. This is seemingly where we're headed right now. Absolutely incredible. This next one is one of my favorite templates. And this one's by Francis Pouliot from Bull Bitcoin. And he goes, hey, friend, I know the crackdown on Bitcoin privacy looks bad right now, but it's way worse than it looks. It is way worse than it looks, guys. Wake up. It's getting crazy out there. This next one is by The World Mechanic, a.k.a. @FinnyJ. And it's a classic red button meme, the superhero pressing the red buttons. And they should have like the Fed here or the DOJ or whatever on the guy's head when he's sweating. And it goes, on the one hand, one button, Bitcoin isn't money. And then the other button is charge wallet devs with running an unlicensed money transmitting service. So which one is it? Is it money or are we, money transmitting services here? I don't know. Make up your mind out there. They're definitely flip-flopping on what is actually going on. And that's how you know they're just scrambling for control. All right, this next one is by our boy TC, aka @Meditation Man on Twitter, and he goes, all caps, now they fight you. And this one is like a monk in an orange robe with Bitcoin on it, and then some demons around it beating up the Bitcoiner. And one of them's the FBI, the other one's the IRS, and the last one is the DOJ. It really feels like that right now. All right. That's enough for all the crazy samurai news that we had. I'm going to lighten it up a little bit with these next memes. This one is @GuitarPunkStar, Bitcoin or Death, and he tagged us all on Twitter. And we got the guy. This is the same guy that does the look at the other girl while he's with his girlfriend meme. And he's proposing to his wife or girlfriend. He goes, I'm going to make you mine. And she goes, oh my God, yes. And then at the bottom, we have BTC sessions in the Bitcoin mine. And the girl's like, what's going on here? And he's got his best Zoolander face going on here, looking all buff and stuff. Shouts out the sessions. All right, this next one is by the Bitcoin conference, and it goes, me right now. And we got a guy here, and he goes, here, go buy some Bitcoin. And we got, the guy blushing, thanks, but I really shouldn't. And he goes, no, you should, and you will. And he's looking in the mirror. You should go buy some Bitcoin. Go buy some Bitcoin right now.
Go to bitcoin.com/simply.
Make sure you're buying Bitcoin. And this last one, shouts out to our boy, Big Sean Harris, and it goes, it might make sense to get some in case it catches on. #Bitcoin. And we got the Oppenheimer meme here where he's looking all crazy. And it goes, no coiner, why should I buy Bitcoin? And Bitcoiners go, well, it was up 160% in 2023 and it's up 50% this year and it's only in April. And no coiners give you that stare like, oh my God, maybe I should get some just in case it catches on. It's catching on in real time. It's catching on. Just, man, love to see it. So good being a Bitcoiner. Even when they attack you, it's good to be a Bitcoiner. Actually, one last thing, Nico. Someone in the chat said, and I think it's a very good comment, and he's like, I'm very surprised that the Bitcoin price is going sideways right now, considering all the news happening right now. I think that is a testament to how strong Bitcoin is and how strong the mentality is of all you hodlers out there that understand what game is being played. So shouts out to you. You guys are the real MVPs. Oof. All right, Nico, go.
All right, I'm going to give it Bit Piggy's little tiny skateboard thing.
You use that one, bro. You need to find another one.
I haven't used this in a long time.
Yeah, but you still used it. You still used it.
BTC pins, wooden pin.
I swear like you used that one before.
Okay, fine. All right. Give me 1 second. Oh, okay. An RGB controller.
Oh, okay. Now that's a good score.
Okay, and I haven't used it in so long.
What's your favorite color on there, though? Because I got like 3 of them.
Are you colorblind?
Yeah, that's why I like colors. I don't see black and white, guys. I just, yeah.
I mean, for like RGB lights, is probably red. Red pops out the most, in my opinion.
I'm a red fan. Yeah, red and blue combined is a vibe. You know, but hey, we're not here for some light therapy advice here. All right, I'm gonna give it a Birkenstock, used and
very
smelly.
Nice, very nice. All right, Crown, what would you give those memes?
Oh man, am I supposed to give it like a thing like you guys do?
I'm gonna give it a meme for you. Your fucking background, dude. Your backyard. It's so fucking badass. Okay, sorry. What did you want to give the memes?
I mean, I don't really have a lot out here with me, but I mean, an orange shoe.
Oh, okay. All right, man. I'm sorry. I literally had to do the score for you because your background is so badass. Okay, dude. I wish it, bro. We should start doing a show like that, Opti. Like we need a nature background, bro. The leaves are
real, definitely real.
I don't have nature at my home right now.
Look at that. The leaves are moving. That's such a beautiful, peaceful place.
The birds have been chirping the whole time. Like,
wow,
this is true. This is true.
Wow. It's so nice. It makes me feel peaceful inside looking at your background or looking at your backyard. Okay. All right, everybody.
You ready, Nico?
If you guys are new to the meme review, the way that it works is you guys drop your meme score in the live chat. If you guys are new to Simply Bitcoin, a meme score could be anything that you can think of. Of course, we are on YouTube. Keep that in mind. So if you put something inappropriate in the chat, we're not going to read it. So, anyways,
we might Ron Burgundy it. Okay. All right, anyways, go, Nico.
All right. Cue the epic music, please.
Wait, I got this first one.
SP, I rate these memes. Quote, Nico extended the show for us, even though he's worried about his YouTube YubTub numbers. That is hilarious. UTXO, I give the memes a stinging nettle salad. I don't know what that is, but I'll take it.
I don't think you can eat those.
JH, I give the memes one of our guest suits. Yeah, dude, your suit is absolutely badass. Okay. Next one. Phil C, I give the memes Bitcoin when money started. Oof. Oof. BTC is truth. Fiat overlords scrambling for control, trying to grab everything that isn't nailed down. Good thing my 12 words are hammered into steel. Boom, 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 boom. McLovin, many more BTC related boating accidents in the near future. Elaine, score C above.
I think it was this one. I think it's this one.
Privacy is criminal. Oh, this is the score. Privacy is criminal when criminals write the laws. Fink the Fed. Congress say the Constitution is full of flaws. Bitcoin forced their hand. Their horns in full display. Bitcoin is the way.
Let's go.
Oh, man. Jose Cuervo. One Ronin samurai that serves no masters. Oh, I like that. Visnok catching up at 1.75 times only to hear Nico say no meme review.
Well, you're lucky. We got a meme review.
I give the memes a door. Thank you, Sublime from X and Rambo. I rate the memes my cat. Okay, love it.
And then we got one from Rumble.
We got
actually two. But yeah, hit
out of compliance meme score, a savior for all. Okay, very cool.
Next one here. Let me pull it up real quick. It's right there, Nico. It's ready. We're ready.
Okay, I give the meme score a savior for all. Got another one.
No. Hold on. Read this one. Narwhal Tacos.
Okay, Narwhal Tacos. I give the memes my halving party drink bottle showing yellow with a chainsaw halving Bitcoin. Ooh, bars. Okay. All right. I think that's everything. Wow. We literally timed it. We timed it with the music and everything. All right, guys, if you enjoyed the show, you know what to do. Smash the like button. Consider subscribing. Really smash the like button on this episode because it was really effing long. But if you guys enjoyed the show, share this content. Really helps. Subscribe if you feel like we provided you value. Do want to give a very special shout out to our extremely intelligent guest that was dropping the hot fire. Crown, let's bring you on again so we can give you like a full 30-minute block because you were dropping so much sauce. Just you caught us on a crazy breaking news episode, but you were phenomenal. You were so intelligent. Where can people find out more about you and what you're working on?
You can watch me troll people on Twitter. It's Barack Obama. So the Barack Obama, but the Omaba, the M and the B are switched. You can put that. I don't know if you can put that in the show notes or anything, but yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. So guys, go follow him. It's on screen right now. And want to thank our guests for coming on Simply Bitcoin Live. Shout out to the best producer in the game, producer Jacob. And Crown, thank you so much for coming on. Hopefully we'll have you back on in a couple months or so.
Cool. Look
Appreciate
forward to
it. All right, guys. What a week. What a week. What a week. Take self-custody, everybody. Have an amazing weekend. Unplug, be with family, be with friends. Like Opti says, touch grass with your toes. That'd be a good idea. And we'll be back on Monday. Brand new episode of Simply Bitcoin Live. And stay tuned for Rustin and John's Simply Bitcoin original. Should be dropping later on today. Peace out, everybody. Have an amazing weekend. Peace.
Episode was brought to you by BitcoinWell.com, on a mission to enable independence.